For Dad, my biggest fan. It's 1 p.m., August 27, 1998. In 5 hours, my virtually unknown band, the Rosenbergs, will play the biggest gig of our lives. At 6 p.m., we're opening for the one and only Duran Duran at Jones Beach, New York. It's the opportunity of a lifetime, the culmination of years of a revolving door of flaky, uncommitted band members, beyond shitty gigs, and a daily dose of rejection. If only I weren't sitting in a jail cell 50 miles away in Ramsey, New Jersey for stealing supermarket sushi. No Respectable Publishing House presents Confessions of a Musical Masochist, My Life as an Almost Rock Star by David Fagin. Read by David Fagin. Forward by Rob Tannenbaum, author of I Want My MTV. Read by David Fagin in the voice of Rob Tannenbaum. I'd love to tell you David wrote a fantastic memoir about the decades he spent on the outskirts of stardom and the unvanquished string of mistakes that kept him on the periphery, but I can't honestly say that because I didn't read the book. Reading the book is, I've been told, a pretty big part of the whole writing the forward assignment. By the way, not forward, F-O-R-W-A-R-D, as David spelled it in his repeated text messages asking me when I was going to write it. When I finished reading the book, I always replied. I wrote the forward anyway, but I can't assure you the book is any good. It's a collection of turkey burger recipes for all I know. Maybe it's Oasis fan fiction or softcore porn. None of these possibilities would shock me. David is a man of limited interests. Among the things he doesn't care about, getting along with people, making a good impression, his long-term health, getting arrested for a DUI. So why didn't I read it? In no particular order. It's long. If he mentions me in the book, it would annoy me. If he doesn't mention me in the book, it would annoy me even more. I've heard David's best stories 100 times. I've heard his worst stories 200 times. And I'm not sure he knows the difference between his best and his worst. Blah, 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 open for Duran Duran, blah, 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 signed by Robert Fripp, blah, 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 banned from every rock club in North Jersey. As far as I can tell, I'm not getting paid to do this. Flashback to 2007. I was well into my career as a journalist and was working as the music editor at Blender magazine. Despite my absolute lack of music ability, I'd been performing around the country as half a duo I formed with a college friend. We were a startling success given that all our songs were A, funny, and B, about being Jews. Thus, when we eventually broke up, I needed a new partner. Someone Jewish who sang and wrote and played guitar and was funny and wasn't afraid of using the word kike on stage. Someone who would be the yin to my yang. Because I have the personality of a sloth on Quaaludes, I needed to find someone with both talent and charisma. My first choice turned me down almost as soon as I began my sales pitch. I don't recall if David was my second choice, and I wasn't even sure he was Jewish, given his puka shell necklace and sense of absolute confidence. Then I saw him eat, and I knew he was a Jew. And David had the quality I most sought, availability. At worst, I figured he could introduce me to Donald Fagin of Steely Dan. That was before I knew how to spell his last name. He learned the songs, we wrote a few new ones, christened ourselves Good for the Jews, and for 15 years toured around the country wearing out our welcome. He was a hell of a lot cuter than the guy he replaced, though he also wore more cologne, which became a problem. There were good times when David drove 10 miles in the breakdown lane after a late flight nearly caused us to miss a show in Chicago. The time a self-professed Nazi picketed outside our show in San Francisco. The time we returned to San Francisco and played for an audience of 7 people, which became David's favorite Good for the Jews show. The bad times mostly involved David ordering drive-through McDonald's late night after the gigs, then eating it in the hotel room we shared and falling dead asleep while still chewing his third Big Mac. The odor wasn't good, but at least it masked his cologne. The time I went back to our hotel room and left immediately because David had somehow acquired female company in the 20 minutes since I'd last seen him. The time we drove back to New York from D.C. at 3 a.m. and had to swerve around a car that had been abandoned on I-95 in a position that took up 2 of the 4 lanes. I still wouldn't believe what I saw if David hadn't seen it too. Anyone who toils in the entertainment industry has lived out a joke that sums up its inexplicable appeal. The joke involves the circus, elephants, feces, and a shovel. And the punchline is, what, and give up show business? Google the joke. Not later, now. If you've read this far, it's not like you're a busy person. After thinking about it for the 45 seconds it's taken me to dictate the previous paragraphs to one of my assistants, I think you absolutely should buy the book. Indeed, you must. David needs the money, and I'm tired of getting Venmo requests from him that say, gambling debt, need immediately, or gallons of Jack Daniels are 10% off at the Hoboken Save Mart. I'd also bet money that this is a good book. I'd bet your money, not mine. Like most hardened cynics, David has a gooey, idealistic core. He believes it should be simple. If you're talented, you'll succeed. If you write good songs and perform them well, you'll be rewarded. Oh my God, that's hilarious. So I'm guessing this book is about ambition thwarted, about external and internal obstacles, about the gamut of an artist's emotions from determined to resigned to homicidal. If you want to keep your kid out of the entertainment business, and you should want that, this is the perfect book to give them. After all, who's going to write a better book about fire prevention? A fireman or the guy who played with matches and burned down his own house? Introduction. If I can accomplish one thing with this book, it's to make just a few of you out there, the ones who gave up your dream of being a rock star to work at the bank or the insurance company or your dad's lumberyard. If I can accomplish one thing, it's to make you feel profoundly at peace with your decision. Regrets be gone. I am here to present your alternate universe, the one where you didn't choose stability, health benefits, or a future that involves sleep and peace of mind. I'm here to offer you a glimpse into the life you'd be living had you clung to the dream, ignored every sensible adult, and continued making music out of sheer stubbornness and maybe a little desire. I am the ghost of music careers past, if you will, a musical version of Sliding Doors. This is not a cautionary tale, it's a public service. My mission is to make you thank yourself, sincerely, repeatedly, and especially during every future performance review you ever undergo, for choosing the sensible job/life. You're welcome. So who is this ray of sunshine addressing you? Surely you know. I'm the guy who started a band called the Rosenbergs in my little apartment in Lyndhurst, New Jersey. You never heard of the Rosenbergs? Perhaps this will jar your memory. I can't be anything without you. Don't just sit there, meet me on the way to the sunlit stars. I wish I had a friend just like my brother does. She thinks about love while singing her bop-bop, slinging her backpack. Still no? You need to get out more. I flopped spectacularly at a label showcase in LA and briefly believed the resulting shame might actually kill me. It didn't, which was inconvenient at the time and sometimes still is. But I recovered somewhat, got smarter, albeit marginally. I shared a stage with Duran Duran, The Strokes, No Doubt, Echo and the Bunnymen, Night Ranger, Supergrass, The Black Crowes, Big Star, and many others much more famous and cooler than myself. Got a gig working for the one and only Neil Diamond. I scandalized large portions of the record industry for a few chaotic months in late 99 and early 2000. Signed a record deal with Robert Fripp's label while other labels avoided us like the plague. I partnered with Napster back when the entire industry knew it by its other name, The Devil, and was instrumental in bringing down a TV show, which sounds impressive until you think about how bad most TV shows are. Somewhere along the way, I became a poster child for the equitable treatment of artists and a regular on panels with the Talking Heads, Fugazi, Chris Novoselic, Alanis Morissette, where I mostly tried not to sound like I'd wandered in from catering. Along the way, my band took a web journalist from an obscure music site and accidentally gave him a career with some of the biggest names in the music biz. Proof that sometimes the most successful thing you do is help someone else escape their miserable existence. The gig with Duran Duran was one of the most exhilarating experiences of my life. Not because of the stage or the crowd or the gravity of the gig. I'd just been released from jail about 3 hours earlier for stealing supermarket sushi. It was beyond a miracle I was arrested, bailed out by my girlfriend, and made it to Jones Beach in apocalyptic Long Island traffic in time for sound check. I still can't believe it worked out, as the entire time I was sitting in my cell, the only thought going through my mind was, I fucked up my band's biggest gig ever, and they don't even know it yet. Why would I commit a crime hours before the biggest show of my life? Great question. I'd love to tell you there was some deeper psychological explanation, but most of my bad decisions were less troubled artist and more golden retriever spots open car window. What I can tell you is this. Self-sabotage has always been the unadvertised opening act of my career. Sharing a stage with these new wave legends was a cocktail of adrenaline and validation I'd been chasing for years, and for a brief moment, I felt like I belonged. I even allowed myself to think it was a sign of great things to come. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Fast forward nearly 30 years, and I'm the one singing Rio, except instead of standing on a sprawling stage in an amphitheater in front of thousands, I'm in a cramped Atlantic City nightclub playing with my cover band, The Counterfeiters. Tonight, we're the after-party entertainment for the same band I once opened for all those years ago. Yes, the one and only Duran Duran. The parallels are cruel, a cosmic joke only fate could write. 1998, we opened for them. 2023, we're cleaning up after them. As I belt out the chorus to a packed room, I spot Simon Le Bon strolling through the casino lobby. He doesn't look in my direction. Why would he? To him, I'm just another guy singing his songs in another seedy nightclub. To me, he's the reason I once thought this whole music thing might actually work out. The crowd is loving it, reliving the 80s with their cocktails high in the air. Me, I'm singing Rio and will have to pay for my beers. Mr. Le Bon, he's only a few feet away, but he might as well be a million miles. It's not unusual for me to be standing inches away from artists who are about to take the stage to thousands of screaming fans and be welcomed into a bubble of rarefied air that only a few lucky humans ever get to experience. The bubble where you can do no wrong. No matter what you say or do, for the next 2+ hours, 10,000 or more of your best friends, supporters, and lovers will hoist you on their shoulders and lift you out of your body, and you will do what you do as if you are walking on the moon. When it ends, it will have felt like a space flight. The launch, the G-forces, the weightlessness, the heart stop of a string break or backing track that doesn't play, the save by a trusty crew member who's on the fly thinking brings everyone even closer together. You absorbed their energy, you fed off it, and now you're back on Earth, ready to rejoin society as a normal person, if you can. Back in the day, when aspiring artists or a panel moderator would ask me for the most important piece of advice I could give on making a career as a singer-songwriter, I'd tell them this. Be prepared to have a safe dropped on your head 363 days a year. Once or twice a year, there'll be a gig that makes everything feel worth it. A night where you think, this is why I do this. But the other 300+ days, get ready for invisibility, frustration, humiliation, and more disrespect and disappointment than you'd think possible. I first gave that answer nearly 30 years ago. In my young 20-something head, I was totally up for it, prepared to live and die by that rule. Bring it on, universe. Turns out the universe took me literally. As I write this, I'm hurtling towards 60, have no idea how to use book writing software, or how to keep the word count in this manuscript from eclipsing that of Alex Haley's Roots. I'm still spending an alarming amount of my time trying to convince buyers to book my cover band, The Counterfeiters, and my Britpop tribute, The Wankers. To paraphrase Kevin Bacon's boss in the John Hughes classic She's Having a Baby, a few times a year I get to play a gig that affirms why I do what I do. Be it playing to a sea of beachgoers down the Jersey Shore with The Counterfeiters, or rocking 3,000 geezers at Music Fest Bethlehem with The Wankers. The rest of my days are spent like a frog on a log, in constant panic mode, wondering where the next gig is coming from. Most of these venues book a year in advance, so if I don't book it now, come next summer, we'll be sitting on our asses. And don't even get me started about the rain, or the heat index, or locusts. It's the same thing every year, like Groundhog Day for musicians. Dealing with talent buyers who judge bands based on likes and followers, to the point they'd cancel the Beatles over Charlotte and the Cummerbuns because the latter have 50 more followers on Instagram. As Jerry Maguire would say, it's a 24/7 pride-swallowing siege of clawing and begging just to get a booking at a dive bar with bad lighting. Your reward for busting your butt for gas money for close to 5 hours? Being blacklisted by the owner because you didn't bring enough people. In short, this is not a story about success or failure. It's a story about survival. And while it's no doubt hard to keep a successful band going, keeping an unsuccessful one going is even harder. Let's get on with it, shall we? Chapter 1.